What's happening, everybody? Tyrone Bowman live. Global News. Welcome to the program. Welcome to the conversation. We're about to start it here in about maybe 1 to 2 minutes. I'm looking at the articles that I'm going to be talking about. Some of the important things that are happening locally, internationally, and globally. So it's a good thing that we pay attention not just to what's going on politically, but we have to pay attention to what's, pardon me, gotta fix this light on this side to my right. So if I don't fix it, it's not gonna work right. All right, hopefully that'll do it. So we have to pay attention to what's going on right within our own neighborhoods, our own communities at the same time. It's vitally important because if we don't pay attention to the things that's happening and going on, you get left behind. So let's get right down to it. Let's start talking about some of the stories here. I'm going to start reading from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Got a copy of it today. And I'm going to start talking about how 85,000 customers in Pennsylvania have dropped their health plans. What is going on here, and how come 85,000 Pennsylvanians have health plans? Premiums for a penny, the State Affordable Care Act marketplace doubled on average after the expiration of expanded tax credits. This was written by a staff writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer, Harold Baker. All right, shall we get down to it? I think we shall. This is from the Business and Money section. Quote, about 85,000 people who bought penny plans in 2025 did not renew for this year, following the expiration of expanded tax credits that reduced what consumers had to pay. Pennsylvania's Affordable Care Act marketplace announced this past Monday. That meant that 18% of previously enrolled Pennsylvania residents dropped their coverage as premiums doubled on average across the state, according to Penny, the state's Obamacare marketplace. Enrollment for 2026 totaled 486,000, down from 496,661 at the end of last year's open enrollment period. For this year, roughly 79,500 newcomers to the exchange partially offset the people who dropped their coverage. The agency warned, however, that the number of enrollees could continue declining for several months. There's a 3-month lag between when consumers stop paying premiums and coverage ends. Open enrollment ended January 31st. Pennsylvania already had more than 700,000 people without health insurance, according to the latest census data. The agency that predicted last summer that as many as 150,000 people would drop coverage if Congress did not renew the expanded tax credits that were adopted in 2021 during the coronavirus pandemic. You see, part of this is due in part because Congress voted against affordable health care. Because the whole thing with the Republicans is to eliminate it altogether and replace it with something that's going to benefit the lobbyists, that's going to benefit the pharmacists and the pharmaceutical companies, and that's going to benefit them because many of them have investments in private health care companies. So they want to take it away from affordable health care and jack it up and cause individuals to pay more money than they're supposed to pay. And if you don't think this is real, go to your doctor. Look at how much prescriptions cost. and see if you can afford to pay them without health care. No matter what happens, you can go to urgent care. The first thing they want to know, do you have insurance? Before they can even ascertain what is wrong with you, what's the problem, how did it happen, do you have insurance? If you don't have it, they want to turn you away. And people in the Senate and in Congress, they get the best health care packages. Did you hear what I said? They get the best free care health care packages that the law allows them to have for them and their family members. Meanwhile, individuals like you and I, we have to find ways to stay healthy, because God knows all the food is poison. It seems like it is. Now, getting back to the article, New Jersey has not released final results for its ACA open enrollment period, which also ended January 31st. As of the start of January, 493,727 residents were signed up for 2026 health coverage with Get Covered New Jersey. That's up slightly from the 481,000 people who were enrolled last year. Average out-of-pocket costs were expected to double on average for people who benefited from the enhanced tax credits, Penny said last year. So tax credits are extended for the rich and the powerful, but they've been ended for everyday people. They don't get any tax credits for nothing. But the rich, the powerful, the billionaires, the trillionaires who get government contracts and money from the government to keep their companies afloat, they get all the tax credits in the world. Out of the under the ACA, people who earn less than 400% of federal poverty level, about $64,000 for an individual and $132,000 for a family of four, are eligible for tax credits on a sliding scale based on their income to help offset the monthly. Let's see where this continues at. Go to AB. I want to get this whole article in here because this is so important. I got a lot of papers here on my little desk here. All right, I finally found it. So, getting back to the bottom portion. So the tax credits will be based on their income to help offset the monthly cost of an insurance premium. That tax credit is part of the law and therefore did not expire at the end of December. The change affects an expansion in 2021 when Congress increased financial assistance so that those buying coverage through an Obamacare marketplace do not pay more than 8.5% of their income. The expiration of the 8.5% cap means that a 60-year-old couple with household income of about 85,000 could see their premium triple to $22,600 this year from $7,225 last year, according to the nonprofit Bipartisan Policy Center in Washington, D.C. The tax credits were a key issue in the federal budget debate last year that ultimately led to the longest ever government shutdown. Democrats warned to permanently expand the enhanced subsidies, and Republicans refused. Then why did they end the government shutdown then? Because they didn't get anything for it. The constituency has been hurt as a result of it. And now they're poised to have another government shutdown because the Democrats don't seem willing to want to give $10 trillion more for ICE. And that's going to cause another government shutdown. And behind the scenes, there's a lot of jockeying going on that's not taking place before the American public because they want to keep you off balance by having you constantly talk about the Epstein files. I don't give a damn about the Epstein files or who's in them, who's not in them, who was in them, who was redacted from them. What does it have to do with Medicaid and Medicare and health coverage for the average person? Nothing. People's priorities are mixed up. They're talking about the wrong things. I don't care about Jeffrey Epstein. I don't care about these filthy, perverted billionaires being involved in the files or not being involved in the files. I care about people who cannot afford health coverage for them, themselves, their family, and elderly people who are going without the necessity of adequate health coverage because they can't afford it. They get the lowest market-based generic form of health care coverage. That is equivalent to nothing. But yet people want to sit around and talk about Jeffrey Epstein. Who cares? Oh, what did they know? When did they know it? Who cares who's in the files, who's not in the files? I don't care. These people have been doing this stuff for a long time, and they're going to continue to do it. Meanwhile, weaker health coverage is beginning to take place. About 33,000 more penny customers enrolled in plans that have lower monthly premiums, but typically come with high out-of-pocket costs in the form of deductibles and copays. Y'all know about those deductibles. You know about those copays. Those deductibles and copays are high. Who wants to pay $200, $300, $400 for deductibles and copays? If you have insurance, it should already be in coverage. The purpose of having the insurance is so that you don't have to come out of pocket. The profitability margin is not feasible for those who give the health coverage, so they want to try to find a way to get money on the slide. And how do they do it? Deductibles, copays, referrals. So the deductibles and copays that amounted to a 30% increase in the number of consumers choosing so-called bronze plans, Penny said, quote, as the cost of groceries, housing, utilities, and other necessities continue to rise, higher health care costs mean more people will delay care, skip treatments, or take on medical debt. According to Antoinette Krause, who's the executive director of the nonprofit advocacy group Pennsylvania Health Access Network, she said in an email. And this is what the midterm elections referendum should be about. It should be about the rising cost of groceries, the rising housing crisis, rising utilities, and basic necessities that individuals have to continue to pay for over and over and over again. And you're trying to tell me, trying to make us believe that everything is good with this economy? It's a lie. Coming out of the mouths of the richest people in the world to keep you arguing and fighting and cussing with each other. During the meantime, they'll find ways to skim, they'll find ways to cheat, they'll find ways to get tax credits, they'll find ways to fire people and replace you all with robots. That's why there's such a push for AI, the robotic workforce, the robotic industry, replacing, quote unquote, what they call humanoids. And a lot of you all won't believe it until it happens to you. When your job is taken away from you and they replace you with robots, then you'll believe it. When you come in one day and they tell you, you don't even have to go to your cubicle, you don't even have to go to your desk. As a matter of fact, we already got this planned out. Here's your final pay. Good luck. And you may have a sick mother at home or a sick child, and you were dependent upon that company insurance, healthcare insurance to carry you through. The moment they fire you, forget about, laid off. No, you're being fired. The moment they unceremoniously fire you, the health coverage ends. You know it ends, and I know it ends. And all that money you paid into a company-based health care coverage plan, it costs you more through your company than if you will go private sector. So this is real. Let's talk about the outsourced jobs from Vanguard. The project growth for India-based company Infos didn't materialize after the 2020 transfer of 1,300 positions. This article was written by Joseph N. DiStefano. When Vanguard outsourced more than 1,300 retirement plan office jobs in Infos in 2020, both companies pitched the idea as a win for the Philadelphia region, not just another cost-cutting move. India-based Infos called it a first step in attracting work from other U.S. financial employers. But with Infos moving jobs back to Vanguard and the Trump administration discouraging visas for foreign workers at U.S. contractors, that deal now looks as though it may have been a high point, not a sign of bigger things ahead. Vanguard spokesperson in 2020 stressed that Infos planned to use the outsourced workers to open a Mid-Atlantic Center of Excellence facility in Malvern. Info officials said they hoped to hire more U.S. workers to outsource work from financial companies into the center under a veteran Vanguard manager, Martha King said. It was the largest ever deal signed in Info history. Pravin Rao, chief information officer, told investors in a conference call the day after the deal. The stock jumped 15% on the news. Info president Mohit Joshi promised to improve retirees' investment experience and set a higher service standard. How many of you, and be honest in the comment section, you have been a victim of outsourcing? Your company say, well, you'll have the option to move to a different state, and or you can just take the buyout here. And you found out that the jobs that you had went overseas, or they went way down south someplace, or out into the Midwest, and then the next thing you know, you're out of a job. Outsourcing. You know what they like to call in corporate America? Downsizing. They come up with all these fancy terms. We're not eliminating jobs, we're creating jobs. And what we're doing, when they start that, you know they're about to lie. Tom, can I have some water, please? Yeah, thank you. You know, they go through all the dramatics. What we're attempting to do, we're trying to maximize the profitability portion of our company. And in order to do that, to make sure individuals have job security now, tomorrow, and futuristically, we're trying to find out how we can create mergers that will bring in a lasting impact so that we have more sustainable income. The more sustainable income we have, the more productivity, they just go on and on and on and on and on. The next thing you know, your jobs have been taken away from you. You don't have them anymore because the jobs went overseas. And what they promise is not what it is in actuality. Let me see if I can quote some more of this article. So talk about how the stock jumped 15%. But the expected new business didn't materialize. Info's growth slowed after 2020. The company's stock is now worth less than when it signed the Vanguard deal, and its major U.S. office centers are elsewhere. Be careful about stock portfolio investments. They're going to try to make you think you're doing such a great thing, getting your money tied up in stock investments. Stock market ain't nothing more but a bunch of bookies operating in a sophisticated fashion. If it goes up, your money goes up. If it goes down, you lose your money. What never ceases to amaze me, when the stock hits an all-time high, why don't people just take their money and leave instead of being greedy and move on? Some more decent articles here. Let's talk about China for a moment. How a China critic, who's a former publisher, was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Wow. Now that's the article. 20 years in prison. This was written by Kenneth Liu. The Hong Kong media magnate was convicted of colluding with foreign forces and conspiracy to publish seditious articles. So I have a picture here. I'm going to try to put it up. I want you all to see so you have context as to who I'm talking about here. This is a photo. Former media magnate Jimmy Lau walks through the Stanley prison in Hong Kong on July 28, 2023. He has been sentenced to 20 years in prison. The photo from the Associated Press is credited to Luis Mate. All right, here's the person I'm talking about. You put it close up so you can see it. Because I'm going to get into this story. I'm going to have to take a break in about 6 minutes. But I want to start this story. Jimmy Lau, the pro-democracy former Hong Kong media tycoon and a fierce critic of Beijing, was sentenced on Monday to 20 years in prison in the longest punishment given so far under a China-imposed national security law that has virtually silenced the city's dissent. Lau, who was 78, was convicted in December of conspiring with others to collude with foreign forces to endanger national security and of conspiring to publish seditious articles. The maximum penalty for his conviction was life imprisonment. His co-defendants, 6 former employees of his Apple Daily newspaper, and 2 activists received prison terms of between 6 years and 3 months and 10 years on collusion-related charges. Have you all forgotten that China is a communistically run nation? Have you all forgotten that? Have you forgotten that there's no freedom in China? There's no freedom of speech? Have you forgotten that the state runs the media? The state controls everything in China. The government controls everything. People have forgotten. You know why? Because they're so caught up in the trade and money making among the billionaires with the patents and things of that nature. They keep forgetting that freedom is not existent in that nation. Yet, in America, they claim to hate communists and socialists on the Republican side. But they deal with them in business every single day behind the scenes. So which one is it? Is it money over freedom? Money over democracy? Money over a free press? A 78-year-old man sentenced to 20 years, he's not going to make it. And he was a billionaire in terms of Chinese money. Lau smiled and waved at his supporters when he arrived for the sentence, but before he left the courtroom, he looked serious as some people in the public gallery cried. When asked about whether they would appeal, his lawyer, Robert Pang, said, "No comment." Smart man. The democracy's advocates' arrest and trial have raised concerns about the decline of press freedom in what was once an Asian bastion of media independence. The government insists the case has nothing to do with a free press, saying the defendants used news reporting as a pretext for years to commit acts that harm China and Hong Kong. Now, you know they're not going to tell the truth. Lau was one of the first prominent figures to be arrested under the security law in 2020. Within a year, some of Apple Daily's senior journalists also were arrested, and the newspaper shut down in June 2021. Lau's sentencing could heighten Beijing's diplomatic tensions with foreign governments, which have criticized Lau's conviction and sentencing. U.S. President Donald Trump, who is expected to visit China in April, said he felt so badly after the verdict and noted he spoke to Chinese leader Xi Jinping about Lau and asked him to consider his release. I believe he did that. I don't even doubt it. I do. I do believe that President Trump did speak a positive word. Tyrone Bowman, Live Global News. I'll be right back right after this short break. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Global News on Tyrone Bowman Live. I'm talking about an article in the news section of the Philadelphia Inquirer, how a Chinese critic who's a former publisher, he has been sentenced to 20 years in prison. When I last left off on the article, I left on the part where the article talked about U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to visit China in April, and said he felt so badly after the verdict, and noted he spoke to Chinese leader Xi Jinping about Laos and asked him to consider his release. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's government also has called for the release of Laos, who is a British citizen. UK Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper called the prosecution politically motivated, saying the prison term is tantamount to a life sentence. In a statement, Lao's son, Sebastian, said the draconian prison term was devastating for his family and life-threatening for his father. It signifies the total destruction of the Hong Kong legal system and the end of justice, his son said. His sister Claire called the sentence heartbreaking, cruel. In the same statement, if this sentence is carried out, he will die a martyr behind bars. Hong Kong leader John Lee said Lao's sentence demonstrated the rule of law, inciting his serious crimes. Well, from what I'm reading in this article, what was the seriousness of the crime? They never stated. He's a publisher, just reporting news. So where's the seriousness of trying to harm the government come in at? See, free press is what a lot of political leaders don't like, because if it's not favoring them, they don't want to hear or pay attention to what's being said. You know, that's why you have to have independent thinkers. You know, Thomas Jefferson, who went on to become president of the United States, is what they call an enlightenment thinker, or a conscious individual who was consciously awakened and enlightened. And he wrote based upon the constitutiveness of his mind, not based upon the climate of politics at the time. Don't you know a lot of politicians had careers before they became senators and congresspeople, whatever they're going to become? Many of them are lawyers. Many of them are doctors. The doctors in the Senate, they're pro-pharmaceutical. The lawyers are pro-legalistic. You know, they get you entangled in terms of the legalese language. You know, when you're a dissident or a dissident individual, that means they're saying that you're seditious. So anything that's diametrically opposed to what they're talking about, in their term, I guess, Lao is supposed to be in prison at 78 years of age. Come on, he's not going to make it. In Beijing, China's foreign minister spokesperson, Linda Jian, said Lao is a Chinese citizen and called him a major planner and participant in a series of anti-China destabilizing activities in Hong Kong. He urged relevant countries to respect the rule of law in Hong Kong. Lao founded Apple Daily, a now defunct newspaper known for its critical reports against the government. In Hong Kong and Beijing, he was arrested in August 2020 under the security law that was used in a years-long crackdown on many of Hong Kong's leading activists. In their ruling, 3 government-vetted judges wrote that the starting point of Lao's sentence was increased because they found him to be the mastermind of the conspiracies. But they also reduced his penalty because they accepted that Lao's age, health condition, and solidarity confinement would cause his prison life to be more burdensome than that of other inmates. You gave him 20 years. That man's not going to make it. He's 78 years of age, and he has already underlying chronic illnesses. And prison food is garbage. Prison life is not what people think it is based upon some so-called prison reality show that they show on Netflix. That stuff is just for the cameras. And the cameras only. And real Real G's in prison, they don't come on camera and talk about nothing that goes on in prison. They don't, because they're real G's. They know better. That's enough. That's enough of that article. I'm going to go on to a different article now, and I don't want to bore you all with this article by going on and on and on. All right. We'll talk about Bad Bunny later on. So let's talk about J.D. Vance being, you know what, you all want to hear about the beautification of Bishop Fulton Sheen. Let's talk about him. American Archbishop Fulton Sheen's planned beautification was paused in 2019 because of investigation into his handling of sexual misconduct by clergy. Now, Bishop Sheen is not alive. All right, let's get that straight. So the beatification process is something that I guess they do according to canon law and things of that nature. This article was written by Nicole Winfield. Coming from Rome via the Associated Press, the Vatican has given the green light again to beatify Archbishop Fulton Sheen, the popular U.S. radio and TV preacher whose path to sainthood was derailed first by a lengthy court battle over his remains and then by concerns about how he handled clergy sexual misconduct cases. After a rare 6-year delay to investigate the concerns, Sheen's beatification can now take place in Peoria, Illinois, as originally planned, the Peoria Diocese announced this past Monday. No date for the ceremony, no new date for the ceremony. The last major step before possible sainthood was immediately announced, but the Vatican's approval now sets the stage for the Illinois-born Sheen to be beatified during the pontificate of the Illinois-born Pope Leo the 16th. The Holy See has affirmed me that the cause for the venerable servant of God, Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen, can proceed to beatification, Peoria Bishop Louis Taki said in a written and video statement on the website of the diocese and the Sheen Foundation. We are working with the dicastery of the causes of saints at the Vatican to determine the details for the upcoming beatification. Sheen was an enormously effective evangelizer in the 20th century U.S. Church, which in some ways pioneered televangelism with his 1950 television series, Life is Worth Living, according to Catholic University of America, where he studied and taught before he was made a bishop. Sheen won an Emmy Award, was featured on the cover of Time magazine, and became one of the most influential Catholics of the 20th century. That is true. I remember I used to watch Bishop Fulton Sheen because he made sense. You know, he did make sense in the things that he was talking about and the things that he was saying. The article goes on to say, Pope Francis had confirmed a miracle attributed to Sheen's intercession on July 6, 2019, and had set his beatification for December 21 that year in Peoria. But with less than 3 weeks' notice, the Vatican postponed the ceremony indefinitely. It acted after the Diocese of Rochester, New York, where Sheen served as bishop from 1966 to 1969, asked for further investigation into Sheen's tenure and his role in priest assignments. The concerns focus on Sheen's handling of 2 cases of priests accused of sexual misconduct. Sheen was never accused of abuse himself. A top canonical affairs office from Peoria, Monsignor James Cruz, said in 2019 that an investigation had cleared Sheen of any wrongdoing. Cruz later complained that the Rochester Diocese was sabotaging the cause, writing a lengthy essay that had been posted on the official Sheen beatification site, but later taken down. Peoria Bishop Taki's statement made no reference to the concerns that prompted the delay in 2019. The 2019 investigation was the latest obstacle to hinder Sheen's cause. coming after an expensive years-long battle between Sheen's relatives in Peoria and the New York City Archdiocese over his final resting place. Sheen, who died in 1979, was interred under the altar of St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York. His remains were returned to Peoria in 2019 after a court ruled Sheen's niece could bury him there. Among those celebrating the Vatican's new green light to beatify Sheen was the Pontifical Mission Societies in the U.S., the Vatican's main missionary fundraising office in the U.S., which Sheen headed from 1950 to 1966. Sheen left most of his patrimony, including writings, audio recordings, to the organization, which raises money for the Catholic Church in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and other mission areas. Let's get back to Philly for a moment. I was going to talk about Vance, but I'll save that for later. I saw an article about a congressional race that's getting ready to take place in Philadelphia. You all need to know about it. Let's see, do I have that article here? Let's see, I think I got it. It's over here. All right, this is from the Philly and Region section of the Philadelphia Inquirer. Ward leaders have endorsed Street for Congress. This article was written by Sean Collins Walsh, a staff writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Philadelphia Democratic Party has endorsed State Senator Sharif Street for the city's open congressional seat. The endorsement Monday came as no surprise, given Street's insider connections. He previously chaired the Pennsylvania Democratic Party and is close to party leaders in the city. And Bob Brady, who chairs the Democratic City Committee, said last fall they expected ward leaders to vote to endorse Street. But in nonetheless strengthens Street's status as the favorite in the race among the local Democratic establishment. Street, the son of former Mayor John F. Street, was endorsed by the politically powerful unions in the Philadelphia Building and Construction Trades Council last year. Quote, I am deeply honored to have received the overwhelming support of the grassroots leaders who power our party. Street, who represents the North Philadelphia district in the state Senate, said in a statement, this endorsement is more than just a vote of confidence. It is a demonstration that we are building a broad-based coalition. Street is one of about a dozen Democrats vying to succeed retiring U.S. Representative Dwight Evans in Pennsylvania's 3rd Congressional District. Other contenders include State Representatives Morgan Cephas, Chris Rabb, and physicians Alice Stanford and Dave Oxman. Street has also emerged as the front runner in the financial race. Recently disclosed campaign reports showed he raised $348,000 from donors in the last quarter of 2025. The longest haul. This is the longest haul in terms of fundraising. Oops. Hold up. Where's the street? Oh, stop playing with me. All right. He raised more money than all the other people put together combined. So the 3rd Congressional District is by some measures the most heavily Democratic district in the U.S. House and includes West Philadelphia and parts of Center City, South, West, South, and North Philadelphia. The winner of the Democratic primary in May is all but guaranteed victory in November. Democrats hold a 7-1 voter registration edge over Republicans in Philadelphia. Earning the party nod may help Street stand out in a crowded field and will bolster his ground game for campaigning, activating the party's hundreds of committee people to get out the vote for him. But it doesn't guarantee victory, ladies and gentlemen. Insurgent candidates have defied the party's dominance several times in recent city elections and the district includes several progressive pockets that could open the door for a candidate who can coalesce the left against Street. Well, we'll see what happens with the congressional race that's coming up. All right, I don't want to read this article. That'll really upset y'all. All right, let's talk about Bad Bunny's performance at the Super Bowl, since there are articles here about it in the life and culture section of the Philadelphia Inquirer. I know many people watched the Super Bowl performance. I, for one, didn't see anything pertaining to the Super Bowl because I'm a law student and I was someplace studying and getting plenty of rest. Had no choice. After working a 10-hour shift on Sunday and then hitting the books, all I could do was pass out and get ready for the next day. So those of you who are new to this channel, I've talked about me being a criminal justice major / law student on the way to becoming a criminal justice reform advocate, fighting for those and advocating for those who can't fight and speak for themselves. Let me say something about being a true advocate. True advocates are individuals who should be on a mission. You shouldn't be out there for grandstanding purposes. You shouldn't be out there to make money, to line your pockets, to get wealthy. This is about helping those who cannot help themselves, fighting for those who can't fight for themselves, speaking for those who can't speak for themselves. I'm going to be on here for a minute, y'all, so you might as well get comfortable, get yourself some coffee, some tea, or your favorite meal. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. I'm going to be on here for about maybe the next 45 minutes, maybe even longer, because I've got a lot of things to cover, and I'm going to get it all done in this one video. All right, Bad Bunny's Benito Bowl was a celebration of Puerto Rican pride, according to this article. All right, I'm going to read the article, and I want to know your comments. And to be fair, I want to find an article, if it's here, about the Turning Point USA pre-recorded performance from Kid Rock. Kid Rock is not one of my favorite people, but I'll do justice to the article. You know, I will be fair. You know, I'm not looking for criticism from either person. I'm just looking to report it as it is, and I want to know what you all think about it in the comment section, okay? All right, let's start with Bad Bunny's Super Bowl performance. Bad Bunny rescued the Super Bowl, really? According to Dan DeLuca. The first half of the final game of the NFL season was a low-scoring, nearly lifeless affair, but once Benito Antonio Martinez Ascalio appeared for his much ballyhooed and endlessly analyzed halftime show, Levi Stadium came brilliantly to life. The Latin trap rapper and charismatic entertainer promised that the Benito Bowl would be a proud celebration of his native Puerto Rican and boyhood was it ever. Dressed in white with a football tucked under his arm, Bad Bunny, who became the first ever Spanish language Grammy album of the year winner last Sunday, kept up his February winning streak. His dazzling choreographed performance transformed the field into a sugarcane fields. Actually, people dressed as a sugarcane in sugarcane pants with a casita at the center of that. Bad Bunny danced on top of before dramatically falling through the roof. An allegedly real wedding was officiated, and Bad Bunny crowded surfed, carried the Puerto Rican flag, stopped at Coco Frio and taco stands, said hello to a pair of sparring boxers. Wow. Paid tribute to reggae stars Danny Yankee and Don Omar, and packed in portions of 12 songs in just under 13 minutes. Well, that's a heck of a lot of performing, isn't it? If you saw the Super Bowl halftime performance, let me know what you thought about it. The big name guest performers, the source of much speculation and wagering beforehand, turned out to be Lady Gaga, who sang her hit Die With a Smile. Okay, wearing a traditional Puerto Rican dress complete with a brooch that looked like the national flower, the Flor de Magna. Then followed a salsa version of Monaco and the surprise appearance by Ricky Martin, the living La Viva Loca, Puerto Rican crossover star whose success preceded Bad Bunny by a generation. With Bad Bunny, Martin saying, see, I don't read Spanish that well. I can speak it okay, but I don't read it that well. I'll try. Lo que le paso a Hawaii, a powerful protest anthem warning people of Puerto Rico so they don't suffer the same fate as Hawaii. Fleeting cameo appearances were made by many others: Cardi B, Karol G, Pedro Pascal, Jessica Alba, Alex Early, and young Mako, among them, not to mention a cast of what seemed like hundreds of dancers and hit players. But the focus was on the artist and global cultural powerhouse who brought together the community in Levi Stadium and the ones watching on TV and phone screens around the world. Let me tell you something. Okay, the NFL and Jay-Z's Rock Nation, which booked the show, was savvy, according to the article, to bring in the most widely streamed musician in the world to attract a youthful international audience that, while resisting pressure from the Trump administration and conservative critics who argue that Bad Bunny, an American citizen, was somehow an un-American choice to headline the most red, white, and blue sporting event of the year. As promised, Bad Bunny rapped only in Spanish. So viewers like me, who don't speak the language, were somewhat clueless, but it wasn't so hard to get to the gust of the community solidarity, though to make it plain for the gringos, a giant video screen spelled out in English the words Bad Bunny used in his Grammy acceptance speech last week. Quote, "The only thing more powerful than hate is love," end quote, underscoring the community humanity of immigrants fighting for freedom and respect. This is a lot to read here. This is a whole lot of stuff. And the way they write it so bunched up together, small, so you can barely see it. It's a good thing I got some lights over here. So while remaining in constant motion, Bad Bunny addressed the crowd in words that translated as, "You're listening to music from Puerto Rico, neighborhood from the slums. The reason I'm here," the former grocery store bagger said, "is because I never stopped believing in myself," quote, close quote. To the bomb's beat of El Epagan, which started with Martin on Loque Le Pasos, Hawaii, Bad Bunny stood atop a utility pole that rose above the Fox sugarcane and palm trees. He rapped about the power failures that have plagued the island, in which he has insistently called attention to since Hurricane Maria in 2017. That's all of that article I'm going to read because it goes on and on and on. Basically, it's a recap of his performance. Because there are some other aspects to these articles I want to talk about. Let's talk about the late Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier's statue could move to a base of the Art Museum steps, taking Rocky's place. You know, I was upset when they took Rocky's statue down. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't even know why they took it down. They never explain why. You know? Sometimes, listen up. Sometimes removing statues and monuments and things of that nature just to try to make a statement can do more harm. America is America, ladies and gentlemen. I got to take a break, and I'm going to elaborate on this when I come back. I want to talk about the significance and the importance of dealing with America on the way that it is, whether people like it or not. Certain historical things are there for a reason. People can learn lessons from them if they take the time. But to be oblivious to things is nothing more than lunacy. Tyrone Bowman Live, Global News. I have to take this legal break. Be right back. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Tyrone Bowman live. Global news. I'm talking about now the Joe Frazier statue. And they're thinking about putting it on the museum steps, taking Rocky's place. And my question before the break was, why did they even take down the Rocky statue to begin with? They should have just left it alone. The Rocky statue was fine where it was. And I don't even know where they put it. I think they put it on the side, etc. You know, sometimes politics can just overshadow everything and just mess everything up. Some things are just meant to be. The statue is symbolic of something. Just leave it in its place. How would they like it if somebody took something that honored them and took it someplace and put it in a box someplace and threw it in the cabinet and forgot all about the person. The Rocky statute wasn't bothering anybody. Sometimes people don't know how to separate politics from the real person. And that's what's wrong with the politicalization of politics here in America right now. It's becoming so poisoned. People constantly hating each other, bickering, fussing, hollering, screaming, cussing each other out over what? And at the end of the day, people are going to get richer and richer, or these politicians. They'll be laughing at you every step of the way, drinking their cognac, smoking their cigars, dealing with in their proclivities in their private quarters, and just laughing all the way to the bank. And when they get good and tired of everybody, after they mess America up and got everybody hating one another, they will go ahead and move out of the nation. So sometimes things are just meant to be. I don't agree with you, but I like you. Right back at you. It's not a matter of people agreeing with me. As I've said before, none of this is personal with me on this platform here. None of this is personal. I don't take anything personally. I think, and this is a good place to make this announcement. This is not a President Trump bashing channel. I'll criticize other folk. I'll criticize the Speaker of the House. I'll criticize Megyn Kelly. I'll criticize a lot of people. But this is not a channel that's dedicated to hating and bashing the President of the United States. I don't care who occupies the office, be it a Democrat, a socialist, independent, or Republican president, that person is going to be recognized by me in that position. Bottom line, whether I agree with them or not, that's not the point. That's why I do not censor people on this channel. I don't censor anybody. I let everybody come over here and speak his or her mind. I see all the comments when they come across my feed, pro and con, in between. None of this is personal with me. I don't get upset. I don't go home and worry about it because, can I tell you something? Folk got a lot of stuff on their minds right now. Do you hear them telling you? People got a lot of stuff on their minds. And most people, I'm going to tell you how they're getting rid of this. They're drinking themselves to death. They're brutalizing each other. A lot of wives are getting beat up. A lot of children are being mistreated. A lot of seniors are being neglected. A lot of friendships have ended over politics. Family members can't even come together when they find out that other family members voted Republican. There's such hostility. There's such internal strife that's going on within people's families. You got the indoctrination of certain racial creeds and things of that nature. And I've always said this. I can disagree with somebody politically. Doesn't mean that I hate you. I just may have difference of opinion. That's all it is. And unless civility comes back to politics, it doesn't matter who's the president of the United States, America will be on a downward spiral of self-destruction. At some point in time, this nation is going to have to come together. I do a lot of research about a lot of different nations. Over in the UK, in Parliament, they argue and fuss all the time with each other. In Australia, they have differences of opinion. In China, they have differences of opinion. Japan, Jamaica, North Korea, differences of opinion all the time. It's only in America that people want to hate each other over what? Over the pigmentation of somebody's skin color? Are you serious? Are you serious? Because in the end, you're the one that's going to have to live with yourself. And if you alienate yourself because of all the stuff that you got going on up inside you, you're going to miss a lot of anniversaries, a lot of friendships, a lot of birthdays, a lot of gatherings. You're going to miss so much, all because of what? Go watch LBJ on Netflix. You'll see how this crap came about. JFK might have been the president, but LBJ was the brains of the operation. All right, let's talk about Joe Frazier statute, article written by Nick Vadala. History may not repeat itself, but at least in Philadelphia, it sure does rhyme. 20 years ago, our famed Rocky statue made the move from its former perch at the stadium complex in South Philly to the base of the steps of the Philadelphia Museum of Art, where it has stood since. How stupid. How stupid to take the statue and then put it at the base of the art museum. Now the city statue of former world heavyweight champion Smoking Joe Frazier could soon do the same. Creative Philadelphia, the city's Office for the Creative Sector, is slated to present a proposal at a Wednesday Art Commission meeting that would have the Frazier statue take over the Rocky statue, its current home at the base of the Art Museum steps. Last month, the commission approved the Rocky statue's coming move back to the top of the steps, where it supposedly will permanently stay starting in the fall and following its first time display inside the museum. Well, it's about darn time they bring it back and let it stay there. Relocating the Joe Frazier statue to this prominent civic and cultural space would create a respectful dialogue between two complementary representations of Philadelphia's spirit. Chief Cultural Officer Valerie V. Gay and Public Art Director Marguerite Anglin wrote in a letter to the Art Commission, Rocky Balboa as a symbol of hard work and aspiration, and Joe Frazier as the embodiment of those values lived out in real life. Joe Frazier was a remarkable boxer. He didn't get the recognition that he deserved on his lifetime. He darn sure didn't get the fame that he deserved. And he was forever in the shadows of the late Muhammad Ali. And Joe Frazier was a force to be reckoned with. So, created by sculptor Stephen Lane in 2014, the Frazier statue has stood in the sports complex outside what is now Stateside Live for about a decade and has been a part of the city's public art collection since its inception. In an effort led by Johan, the owner of Feasterville's Johan Boxing Gym and a longtime friend of Frazier's, the statue commission was funded by the boxer's family and supporters before its donation to the city. The statue, standing at about 12 feet tall, depicts Frazier just moments after besting Muhammad Ali in the so-called fight of the century, the March 1971 bout in which Ali suffered his first professional loss after 15 grueling rounds. Frazier, who died in 2011, was a well-accomplished boxer before that matchup, having won an Olympic gold medal in the 1964 Tokyo. He held the heavyweight championship title from 1970 to 1973, when he lost the belt to fellow legend George Foreman, following a bout in Kingston, Jamaica. In a matchup referred to as the Sunshine Showdown, he retired in 1976, the year following a vicious loss to Ali in the famed Thriller in Manila fight, after returning for a 1981 match against Jumbo Floyd Cummings that resulted in a draw. Frazier left the sports for good. Relocating the Frazier statue to the Art Museum is expected to cost roughly $115,000 in city funds, and has support from leaders including Mayor Sherelle L. Parker, City Council Member Catherine Gilmore Richardson, State Senator Sharif Street, and State Senator Anthony Hardy Williams, according to the Creative Philadelphia's Art Commission proposal. All right, we're going to leave that right there. I need to get some light on my phone for these articles that I'm about to read here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's find out what's going on and what's happening. This is according to the Atlantic Journal-Constitution. Unsealed documents in Fulton County raid showed the FBI relied on election skeptics. Well. Isn't this a surprise? But we're not surprised. This is written by Caleb Groves and David Wickert. The FBI cited a slew of allegations that have already been investigated to justify the seizure of Fulton County's 2021 ballots, and affidavit unsealed today shows. The document shows the agency interviewed numerous people who have suggested that the election was rigged with fraud, but investigations by the Secretary of State's Office of Investigations found no intentional wrongdoing. The affidavit cites allegations of double-scanned ballots, pristine ballots, and other allegations that the Secretary of State's office has investigated. The affidavit indicates the FBI is investigating whether any other anomalies were intentional. Quote, I have not included in this affidavit every detail of the investigation, the FBI agent who signed the affidavit wrote. Rather, I have set forth facts I believe are sufficient to establish probable cause for the issuance of a search warrant. The document has been the subject of intense speculation since federal agents showed up at the county's election operations center with rented trucks and tools to force their way into the locked cage where the ballots were kept. The affidavit unveils what federal authorities were after. Trump and his allies have long accused Fulton County of rigging the vote against him and awarding the state and presidency to Democrat Joe Biden. 3 vote counts, an election day machine count, a hand count audit, and a machine count, as well as numerous of investigations and lawsuits upheld Trump's loss. But the president has dug in his heels since his return to the White House, repeating debunked conspiracy theories online and in public comments. Trump last week promised the raid will unveil answers to lingering mysteries about the heavily Democratic county election conduct. You're going to see something in Georgia where they were able to get with the court order and the ballots, he said on former FBI Director Dan Bongino's podcast last week. You're going to see some interesting things come out. The ballot seizure comes after months of an escalation from Trump, the Justice Department, and the State Election Board over Fulton's long scrutinized election. Some folk just don't know how to let stuff go. All right. The annual governor's gathering with White House unraveling after Trump excluded Democrats. No, the one black governor is the one who was not invited. All the white people were invited to the White House dinner. Let's just tell it the way it is, according to the AssociatedPressNews.com. An annual meeting of the nation's governors that has long served as a rare bipartisan gathering is unraveling after President Donald Trump excluded Democratic governors from White House events. The National Governors Association said it will no longer hold a formal meeting with Trump when governors are scheduled to convene in Washington later this month, after the White House planned to invite only Republican governors. On Tuesday, Democratic governors also announced they would boycott a traditional dinner at the White House. If the reports are true that not all governors are invited to these events, which have historically been productive and bipartisan opportunities for collaboration, we will not be attending the White House dinner this year, the Democrats wrote. Democratic governors remain united and will never stop fighting to protest and make life better for people in our states. So ICE is beginning to crack down on people who are following them in their cars, according to an article from the Reuters news agency by Ted Henson, Christiana Cook, and Brad Heath. The summary: federal assault and obstruction charges doubled since ICE crackdown began. Videos show immigration officers drawing weapons on protesters. Trump officials say ICE officers face assault threats. Becky Ringstrom was heading home after following federal immigration officers in her gray Kia SUV in suburban Minneapolis. when she was suddenly boxed in by unmarked vehicles. At least a half dozen masked agents jumped out to arrest her, one knocking on her windshield with a metal object as if threatening to use it to break her window. After the arrest, captured on bystander video verified by Reuters, the 42-year-old mother of 7 later said she was transported to Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Building in Minneapolis, where an officer gave her a citation charge under a federal law that criminalizes impeding law enforcement. The official said her name and photo would be added to a government database. The arrest of Ringstrom became the latest detention of one of thousands of local activists for violating Title 18, Section 111 of the U.S. Code, a catch-all charge for anyone who forcibly assaults, resists, opposes, impedes, intimidates, interferes with a federal officer conducting official duties. The statute can be charged as a felony or misdemeanor. As a felony, it carries up to 20 years, but penalties beyond 8 years are reversed for people who use a deadly or dangerous weapon or cause an injury. I don't just want to report news from the Reuters news agency, because there's some other articles here I'm looking at. All right, this is reported from the 19th. The original wine moms are in Ohio. They're mobilizing to support Haitians in Springfield. The article was written by Amanda Becker. Katie Paris opened a Unite for Springfield Zoom gathering of more than 4,000 people earlier this week by asking participants to share one thing in the chat. That was giving them hope. Times are heavy. The subject we are discussing tonight is heavy. We're in a heavy moment. It is so important in these times to tap into a sense of hope. The mother of 2 said, sitting in front of a colorful wall displaying her children's artwork. One thing that's giving you hope right now. Okay, let's turn on the chat. Let's see them. Paris prompted. My children, Minnesotans, community, family, decency, grandchildren, Liam Ramos. Red, Wine, and Blue, an organization that Paris founded in 2019 to build a diverse sisterhood of suburban women to fight political extremism, hosted the call just hours before Tuesday night's stated expiration of temporary protected status, or TPS, an immigration designation that has allowed some 350,000 Haitians to live and work legally in the country. Springfield, a central Ohio city of 60,000, where as many as 1 in 4 residents are Haitian, was bracing for an influx of federal ICE officers akin to the Trump administration's violent crackdown in Minnesota. Paris, who lives outside of Cleveland, about a 3-hour drive northeast of Springfield, tempered the hopeful tone at the start of the meeting with political reality. Last night, a federal judge blocked the Trump administration from ending temporary protected status for Haitians living and working legally in America. The fight is far from over. The Department of Homeland Security immediately stated that they are taking the case to the U.S. Supreme Court, and we know what that means. With this Supreme Court, Haitians could lose their status in really a matter of weeks, Paris said. And the Supreme Court is going to rule against them, guaranteed. And not too long ago, an Asian female immigrant who was deported back to Haiti, they found her dead, sexually assaulted and brutally mutilated on the side of the road after she got back to Haiti. That's what they did to her. Think about that for a minute. And before I continue to read this article, I'll say this to you. For some of you all, you're not going to be happy until people that you know deal with the suffrage, the heartache and the heartbreak and the trauma. And it's going to come to your city. It's going to come to your town. It's going to come to your neighborhood, your associates, your friends. See, some of you have a lot of black friends, but you don't want to tell anybody. Some of you are in interracial relationships and pretending to be pro-MAGA, but you're not. But you don't want to tell anybody. Some of you didn't vote for Donald Trump. You voted for Kamala Harris, but you lie and say that you did. But you don't want to tell anybody. So when the stuff hits the fan and it starts to in some of y'all, then you'll understand. According to the article, what we're going to talk about, what's next legally in all this, we're going to talk about what we can learn from Minneapolis, and we're also going to talk about how we can stay safe. Finally, perhaps most importantly of all, we are going to be giving you opportunities to take real action tonight, she continued. Women have been leading the opposition to Donald Trump's second presidency, playing key roles in resistance efforts and forming groups to counter the administration's policies on immigration and more. During the 2024 campaign, Trump repeatedly targeted the Haitians in Springfield with lies. You know what? In 2016, these same Haitians overwhelmingly voted for Trump. The Christian Haitians. They voted for him in 2016. And they voted again in this election. And you know why? Let me tell you something about black people. I don't care if y'all get mad. I don't care if you don't like it. It's a stipulated fact. Most black people from the islands can't stand black people here in America. From Jamaica to Haiti and all points in between, especially coming from Africa. And they have the nerve to think because they speak a certain dialect or tribal languages that they're more important and better than the black people who have been on the forefront of every major struggle here in this nation, for them to come over here with their noses turned up, for them to come over here with prejudicial attitudes toward their own people. And if you sit down and talk to them, they'll swear, well, I'm not black, but what the hell are you? You're darker than the average black person here in America. And then you have the nerve to think that you are better than the black people here. You don't work harder than we do. In some instances, don't think that you're smarter than we are. Because even in your own countries, you don't stand up for yourselves. You don't fight for yourselves. You don't advocate for yourselves. You're very docile to white people in your own country, especially in Africa. Too docile. You're agreeable. You go along to get along. But you won't stand up and stand with your own people here in this nation. Because you come here with these attitudes of indifference and think that it won't affect you in the long run. And then in times of trouble, then you want to talk about, well, we're all one. Were we all one during the voting process? Were we all one when you came over here with your superior attitudes? Were we one then? Were we one when you were talking about us and calling us all kind of names and telling us we're inferior to you all, that we're lazy, we're dirty, we're filthy, and we're nasty? Were we one then? And now that the TPS status is ending, you want black people, us, to fight for you. Why didn't you fight for us? We tried to warn you all. We tried to tell you, but you would not listen. You listened to your preachers. You listened to your reverends. You listened to the white racist preachers telling you, don't pay us no mind. Because we're all one. And in their churches, you don't have no power. You have no prestige. You have no honor. You don't serve on any positions. You just sit there and they talk to you like you're nothing and like you're nobody. So what the question is, when are you all going to learn that to stand together and to fight together and organize and strategize is what the other people do? That's why they have collective bargaining power. That's why they have a robust and thriving economy. I have to take another legal break, and this is going to be the last break I'm taking. Tyrone Bowman Live, Global News. Be right back, right after this. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Tyrone Bowman live. I'm talking about this article entitled "The Original Wine Moms Are in Ohio. They're Mobilizing to Support Haitians in Springfield." And before I left for the break, I was talking about how the TPS, or the Temporary Protection Status, for Haitians in proximity of about maybe over 350,000 has ended, and the case is going to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, they're going to rule against them, because the Supreme Court has been ruling in favor of the Trump administration on every major case that has come before them. And I was talking about how when people come from Haiti, from Africa, from Barbados, from Jamaica, and from Ghana, and all these different places, when they come to America, the people they don't want to be around is black people. I've interacted with many of them. And they have this disdain, this uppiness against black people. And they don't consider themselves to be black. And as I've told them in several occasions, just because you think you're smarter than us, and if your country is what you say it is, then why are you here in America? Why are you even over here and in other parts of the world, as far as that's concerned, if Africa is everything that you say it is? Because there's widespread poverty. Oh, don't get it wrong. There are many, many rich people in Africa. You got black millionaires, a lot of actors and actresses and people of that nature. A lot of great people live in Africa. You have wealthy politicians. And from what I've been studying, and I study a lot, the sabotage against the Africans come within their own country, from their own people. They could uplift them. They could provide for them. They have all the world's natural resources. And how come people from all over the world can come there and get your resources? And you're just as docile that you can be. Then when you come to America, you want to overcharge people for the goods and services that you have. Like we don't know the differentiation. Are you serious? We're not stupid. So this is an organization that's been founded by white women who are advocating and fighting for the Haitians down in Springfield. So, as I said, women have been leading the opposition to Donald Trump's second presidency, playing key roles in resistance efforts and forming groups to counter the administration's policies on immigration and more. So a PBS News /NPR Marvis poll released Thursday showed that nearly 2/3 of Americans now believe Trump's Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, has gone too far in its methods after federal agents killed Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. When broken down by gender, just 26% of women said they approved of how ICE was doing compared to 40% of men, the poll showed. Of course, 40% of men are going to approve of it. Paris, who worked in national politics before moving back to her husband's hometown from Washington, D.C., founded Red, Wine, and Blue to harness the political power of suburban women, a rapidly diversifying group that determines the outcome of elections and often votes with different priorities on their minds than men do. I'm going to tell you something. You can agree, and you have the right to disagree. A lot of white women are going to vote against Republicans in the upcoming midterm elections. I said a lot of white MAGA women are going to vote against Republican candidates in the midterm elections. A lot of them have already voted against them. All right, I've been on here for 1 hour and 35 minutes and 41 seconds. And I'm going to conclude this broadcast for today. I have a lot of other stories I could talk about, but I'll wait until tomorrow. Great stories, with great storylines and articles that have been written. And as always, if you want to hit me up in my email, TyroneBowman@gmail.com. Do you think that's only because of it? What does abortion have to do with what I'm talking about? That's the one trick pony issue that Republicans want to talk about, and many Republicans have had abortions as well, especially the politicians with their mistresses and girlfriends. Many so-called Christians have had abortions as well. Don't play with me. And just because you are, quote unquote, a conservative, that does not make you a Christian. And because you're a Democrat, that doesn't make you a devil. I'm going to leave it right there. All right. Thank you for the shout out. Great job, Tyrone. Keep it up. End quote. Thank you all for watching today. Until next time, thank you for subscribing to the channel. No, the black populace is fine. The white populace is dying because of abortion. Who do you think introduced abortion to the world? Do you want me to go into the history of it? Because I'll do an entire different broadcast about Margaret Sanger. And I'll break it down to you. You won't like the statistics, and I'll go to the 1973 landmark classic case, Roe versus Wade, and how abortion became a national law. It wasn't a black woman that caused it to become a law. It was a white woman that caused it to become a national law. And when the late Anita Bryant was campaigning and speaking up against these things, y'all didn't like her. I do my homework, and I do my homework very well. I'm not the one. All right, got to go. Got other duties that I must perform. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for subscribing. If you did subscribe, until next time, never surrender, never quit.